All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Chelsea. I serve as the program manager for the Region 10 Opioid Abatement Council, referred to as Gateway to the Rockies Opioid Council, or GROC. This is our August full council meeting. We will start with attendance and quorum. I did drop a link in the chat for all of our non-voting members to record their attendance and drop in potential conflicts of interest that will be read out later. We'll start with voting members. Commissioner Marlin, waving. Commissioner Hollingsworth,
I'm here.
thank you. Dan Ayton,
Good afternoon, I'm here.
thank you. Heidi McCollum or Stephen Pott, Sheriff Armstrong or Greg Demo,
Greg Demo present.
thank you. Laura Weinberg or Chris Wolf,
Laura Weinberg here.
thank you. Janine Mariani, I saw that she was here and has spotty Wi-Fi for the record.
I am here, if you can hear me.
Yes, thank you. Corey Jantz or Troy Cooper,
Tori's here.
thank you. Dr. Story or Michael Miller,
This is Sarah. I'm here.
thank you. Dr. Ryan or Emily Cooper,
Present.
thank you. Marie Larson or Elisa Witt,
Marie is here.
thank you. Mary Berg or Barb Weinstein,
Hi, it's Barb Weinstein here for Mary.
thank you. Sarah Castano or Dr. Gillingham,
Hi, Dr. Short. I think we're both here.
beautiful. Remember, if an alternate and the voting member are here, if the alternate could please respond to the link in the chat for non-voting members to check in. Janie is not here. David Jocelyn,
Good afternoon. I am present.
thank you. Kristen Heath or Judge Cindy Jones,
Hi, Kristen here.
thank you. Did Commissioner Del Kemper or Commissioner Kerr come in?
Hello, this is Leslie. Good to see you all.
Thank you. We'll start with governance approval of the July 27th meeting minutes.
Chelsea, it's Sandy. I'll move to approve the July 27th meeting minutes.
And I'll second. This is Leslie.
Thank you. We'll vote by opposition in the chat. I'm not seeing anything. So moving into our conflicts of interest for today, our standing conflicts of interest are Commissioner Del Kemper for Jeffco Sheriff and Jeffco Public Health, which receive funding from GROC. Dr. Story and Michael Miller work for Jeffco Public Health, awarded for GROC. They do not have an agenda item today. Commander Ayton and Luke Parr are with Jeffco County Sheriff, awarded by GROC. Commissioner Marlin for the CCHAT and Mountain Youth Network Awards, Dr. Ryan for the Mountain Youth Network Award, Commissioner Hollingsworth for the Gilpin Sheriff and Gilpin Parks and Rec Awards, Sheriff Armstrong and Greg Demo for the Gilpin Sheriff Award, Rhiannon Straight for Omni Institute that are funded for program evaluation and administration facilitation support. Moving over to our form. Rebecca, James, please make sure that you fill out that link in the chat. Rebecca and James are with Recovery Works. They have an agenda item today. They are awarded by GROC. And then we do have Dr. Gillingham and Michael Miller, who are alternates in addition to their voting member present today. Any others that I may have missed? I'm not seeing any. So moving on to our next agenda item. We have a brief financial report. Our total funding to date is a little over 18 million. Our expenditures from 2023 to 2025 are almost, it's 2.8 million, which is about 15%. We do have $3 million available to call down in the next funding call, which is September 15th. I will not be calling that down because this number is so low and we have such a high number of unobligated funds that we are really not eligible to pull down any more money. Our expenditures to date has been updated. It's almost 3 million, 2.9. Our obligated contracts are 8 million and our unobligated is 9.8 million. CCHAT has expensed $414,000 to date, leaving $675,000. Denver Recovery Group has a renewal today. They end November of this year. So they have expensed $39,000 with $138,000 in the bank. Lakewood Co-Responder did not expend in Q1. The executive committee did approve a budget amendment for them earlier this month to reallocate funds within their line items. Jeffco Public Health has expensed $13,000, leaving $1.5 million in the bank. Jeffco Sheriff is currently in their procurement process for their biometric monitoring devices, so they have not yet expensed. Recovery Works has expensed $109,000 to date, leaving $460,000 through December 2027. They have an agenda item today. Monarch was paid in full. Advocates for Recovery has a renewal pending today. They have expensed $576,000, leaving $55,000 in the bank. Their contract ends September 12th of this year, so they have one more month left. Hard Beauty is almost done with contracting, so they have not yet expensed. Resilience 1220 has expensed $126,000, leaving $259,000 in the bank. Mountain Youth Network has expensed $6,000, leaving $357,000 left. Gilpin County Parks and Rec has expensed $146,000, leaving $39,000 remaining. We did pay our second year of EUNA, so that was $17,510. This line item will be moving to accrued interest for years 3, 4, and 5 for the 5-term minimum contract. The facilitation line item has expensed $192,000, leaving $131,000. Program evaluation Omni has expensed $47,000, so they have $95,000 left. Conferences, this line item has been adjusted since last month to only reflect 2026, not including 2025. So we've paid $5,000 to date, leaving $890 remaining. And then the fiscal agent admin has not yet expensed to GROC. Any questions on the finance report to date? I'm not seeing any, so I'll move on. I have requested from the executive committee that we expand staffing of GROC. I am at slightly exceeding my capacity as a one-man team, managing 16 awards, drafting policy, designing governance, planning our strategic planning conference. So the current 1 FTE program manager, we are considering the addition of a half FTE administrative support assistant 1. Kate Newman, the deputy county manager for Jefferson County and current supervisor of the GROC program manager, is requesting the Jeffco Board of County Commissioners provide the operations department an increased FTE to pursue hiring additional staff. On September 1st, the executive committee will review the job profile along with pay ranges at their next meeting on September 14th. Today, the council needs to vote on pursuing this expansion. The approval of a pay range and budget will be presented at the September 28th full council meeting. The floor is open.
So I might get a little bit more input from folks. You're welcome to chime in here.
There is outstanding question of if it should be just a 0.5 FTE administrative support assistant or if it should be a full 1 FTE. Kate is requesting just a full FTE from the Jeffco Board of County Commissioners. That way, in case we do not attract qualified candidates with the half FTE, we have the flexibility to increase it to a 1 FTE.
Any questions or concerns about this proposal?
Michael Miller.
Just curious about, I guess one, I would fully endorse this initiative, just having the slightest insight into your workload. Curious about what other work the other 0.5, if we did go with 0.5 FTE, that staff member would be working on. Like, would it be related projects like grant making?
Yes, I definitely need a 0.5. Depending on how many awards we take on in the next RFA, that other half FTE could be used to help manage those awards. It's really like the policy drafting and governance designing that takes up the bulk of my time. And so having that full support to support the contracting process, contract monitoring, pursuing amendments, and just overall facilitation with the 16, potentially 24 awards would be helpful. Laura.
Thanks. I see that at a future meeting, pay range and all that. I don't want to make the assumption, but I would ask that we also include job descriptions for both your role and the new to clearly define sort of expectations of the work.
Yes, I am working on that right now. So that will be presented at the September 14th executive committee meeting to show where that division is and what the work would be. And then we'll bring that back to the full council.
I have a quick question, Chelsea. So once we have applications in, who's going to be making the final decision on who gets it?
You're one step ahead of us. So Kate and I are working on the governance structure. We do not have the historical documents of how my role was pursued. So we're drafting that now. That governance will be presented to the executive committee on the 14th. And then we will be requesting delegation for that by the full council on September 28th. Including who will be involved, who's reviewing and sorting, who will participate in the interview process, and then who has the final hiring authority. I would like someone from the council involved in the interview process. That way it's not just me, because I am not a voting member. So you're one step ahead. Today is really just, can we continue pursuing this expansion? And then the details will be reviewed on the 14th and finalized on the 28th of next month.
I think it makes a lot of sense to have a GROC rep, at least one on a interview panel. We did have, I think 3 members of the GROC participate in the interviews with Chelsea, as well as the consultant we were using at the time, and others. This one, I feel like more delegation is appropriate. I don't know that the GROC needs to make a decision about who the right candidate is, but I'll leave that there for now. I'm not hearing any concerns. So I'm going to make a motion that we authorize the addition of a half FTE administrative support assistant 1 with the approval of pay range and budget to be presented on the 9/28 meeting.
This is
This is
Kristen. I'll
Corey.
second
I
that.
will second that motion.
We will vote by opposition in the chat. Thank you, everyone. I'm not seeing anything. So we will update you next month on the job description for myself and the new staff member, as well as the pay range and budget, and then the process and delegation request. General updates, the Colorado Opioid Abatement Conference is September 30th. Registration is now open. Registration to attend is free of charge. I'll see if Rhiannon can get that link and drop it in the chat for folks. The executive committee did vote to support mileage for 6 individuals who do not have access to employment vehicles. So I do have 2 folks from the advisory committee who have already expressed interest. So we will map out what that looks like and get that reviewed at the September 14th executive committee meeting. Any questions here? I'm not seeing any. Moving on. Grantee updates. Hard Beauty, their award was approved July 27th. They are in contracting. I just reviewed a final draft this morning, so hopefully we start to get that executed this week. Jeffco Health had a budget amendment that was approved last month. Lakewood PD had a budget amendment that was approved last month. And then Recovery Works has a budget amendment pending today. JCMH, Jefferson Center for Mental Health, Soteria Landing, was awarded earlier this year for special projects for $2.5 million in construction costs. Unfortunately, the organization will no longer be carrying out the project, so they have officially forfeited the award. That money has been factored into our unobligated, that $9.8 million. All right, transitioning into our first voting item. For the chairs, Rebecca and James from Recovery Works are here. They have been instructed not to speak unless you grant them permission to do so. Recovery Works is experiencing an influx of clients for MAT specific rooms, the All Roads Recovery program that is funded by GROC. They have added some line items for rental assistance, repairs and room maintenance, and then transitioning a 0.25 FTE behavioral health director to a 1 FTE behavioral health director. The initial budget proposed to the executive committee earlier this month was $107,642.85. The executive committee first, the advisory committee did have some concerns like supplantation and the loss of funding for this role that would be increasing. There are no supplantation concerns here. It was a loss of funding. So that's fine per the state guidance. They did not feel comfortable making a recommendation. They wanted more information, such as their first 3 quarterly reports to show that they are exceeding the number of individuals they projected serving at the time of their award. The executive committee did request additional information, and they wanted to advance this request to the full council with no recommendation. There are supplemental documents in your meeting materials that are from the revise and resubmit or additional questions from the executive committee. The first question asked them to provide their first 3 quarter data reports. That was a separate attachment from Omni Institute. Recovery Works did translate those quarterly reports into a summary. The goal was to provide transitional housing to 36 individuals over a 2-year period. Their current internal tracking now shows 17 participants have already transitioned into permanent housing, representing 47% of the entire 2-year target. The 2-year goal was to provide at least 10 on-site recovery focused groups and engage 180 unique participants. By Q2 alone, they documented 145 recovery support groups. The 2-year goal for housing navigation in case management was to serve 200 participants, but they have served 199 participants in the first 2 reporting periods alone. Describe the changes in funding for the 0.25 FTE role to the 1 FTE. They, based on the anticipated scope, participant volume, and service needs of the All Roads Recovery Program, they are requesting an increase to this role because community demand has grown significantly. There is a change that this individual must be a certified addiction specialist. So they're leveling that position into a clinical role. They did provide some options, 1, 2, and 3. Reclassify the 0.25 behavioral health director as a certified addiction specialist, expand the 0.25 FTE to increase staffing for 2 case managers and 2 peer sports specialists. And then option 3, this is their preferred option, increase the certified addiction specialist to a half FTE position and increase staffing to 2 case managers instead of 1 and 2 peer specialists instead of 1. Please provide description and justification for the new rental assistance line item. Rental assistance is specifically intended to support participants after they have identified permanent housing and are transitioning into their own community-based housing. These funds will not be used to pay rent, room costs, or participant stays on site at Recovery Works. Rental assistance would provide short-term individualized support to bridge this gap and help participants successfully transition into and stabilize in permanent housing. Describe the justification for the rental repairs and maintenance line item. This is specifically limited to the rooms designated for participants in the All Roads MAT program. These funds would not be used for general Recovery Works property maintenance, organization-wide facility improvements, or repairs unrelated to the GROC funded program. The utilization of the MAT rooms has increased, and Recovery Works has identified a need for dedicated resources to ensure these rooms remain safe, functional, and welcoming for participants. Funding would support reasonable repairs and maintenance resulting from normal use of the designated rooms to help ensure they remain consistently available to individuals engaged in the program. And then the budget template was attached separately. And the highlights are, the changes requested are highlighted in red. So again, this would be option 1 with an increase of 107. Option 2, increase staffing here, not here. That would create an increase of 317. And then this is their preferred, increase staffing here by 1 and 1. Make this a 0.5, reclassify it as a certified addiction specialist, include the rental assistance and room repairs. That is 401,000. I will go ahead and open the floor for questioning and discussion.
Questions that Recovery Works is best to answer, feel free to just ask them directly.
And please let me know if my screen can go somewhere to help folks.
Does the executive committee feel like their concerns were addressed with this new information?
I'll say mostly. It's Sandy. Hi. I guess when I see this, I do wonder what they need versus what they want to go for the next This is for 2 years into the future, correct?
The award expires on December of 2027. So they have about 15 months left on their contract.
So these increases are just for that time period?
Correct.
107, 317, and 401.
Correct.
I'm asking in part because I think that everybody's like looking at their staffing levels. So I always wonder what will accomplish the goals. Would that be option 1, 2, or 3 from their point of view, truly?
James, Rebecca, if you would like to weigh in.
Hi, yes, James Ginsburg, Executive Director of Recovery Works. Thanks so much, and thanks for the question. You know, what we're seeing is just this incredible increase in, or I don't know if it's an increase in need. This is our first go at with GROC funding for MAT specifically, but our street outreach team is just seeing an increased demand, people wanting to get off the street, get into recovery. And so what we're having to do is we're trying to bring folks in, as you all well know, putting folks who are unhoused on a wait list is very ineffective. And so we want to stay as on demand as possible. And so we basically want to increase our capacity. We would like to double our capacity. So that we could just serve twice as many people as we're showing that we're able to. Right now, we're having to turn people away and put people on a wait list. And so that's why option 3 is the ideal. That would give us the opportunity, without doubling the budget, we would be able to double the numbers served.
Thank you, Mr. Ginsburg. As a follow-up, are other entities pitching in as well? Or are you only asking GROC?
Well, I mean, GROC is only about 20% of our overall budget. And so other infrastructure, including food and additional peer supports, and other infrastructure supports are being funded by a multiple of other funders. And so we're always seeking additional funding. Right now, we're tapping into our reserves to try to meet the needs. So we are leveraging multiple other funders at any given time.
Thanks for that information.
To answer your question, yes, I understand much better now why they're making this transition and asking for more capacity. The big question in my mind is, or two, is one, is there sort of downstream capacity in our recovery side to like be supportive of folks as they make their way through MAT? And then, because if the answer is yes, then we have a lot of conversations about whether to preserve funding or whether to spend it for impact now. When we're talking about people who, if there are enough people who are actively misusing opioids and wanting services that we can adequately serve them today, I don't know why we wouldn't try to heal them today rather than wait for tomorrow. I don't see that as being beneficial. So I'm leaning towards option 3 for that reason, with the biggest question in mind. Under option 3, do folks that make it through MAT have, like, is there enough service provision downstream to meet the demand that might be created as people are getting through MAT? I don't know how we would answer that question. Dr. Shore-Miller, do you have any thoughts about that?
I want to make sure I understand concern. Are you talking about the transition in care from treatment into recovery? And to make sure that
Yes,
we have enough
yes.
across the continuum?
Yeah, say we, yeah.
Yes, I think that is very organization specific. We do try to create a network of handoff at GROC. And so after our treatment providers, that would be like Monarch, Women's Sober Living, Advocates for Recovery. Hard Beauty is technically considered recovery. This is technically considered recovery, but I would put it as treatment. I think with this organization specific, it would be asking them about their long-term handoff. Where do folks go when they reach stable housing? What kind of partnerships do they have? What kind of engagement does Recovery Works have with participants once they reach stable housing to make sure that they don't end up back on the street and repeating the cycle?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great question, Commissioner, and it's something we grapple with all the time, sort of the long-term stabilization. So in the 2 to 3 months that they're with us, stabilizing and comprehensive case management and getting ready to get into housing, we're connecting them with all the naturally occurring resources in the recovery community, certainly the 12-step community, as Dr. Shore mentioned, Advocates for Recovery. We do have an alumni association, but we always want it where folks can come back after they're discharged. We do a barbecue every Friday, for example. We run 3 groups a day, 5 days a week. They come back for those at times. But ideally, again, all of our guests, we want them to engage in the naturally occurring resources in the community. And so we're connecting those folks to those all the time. And then we're trying to initiate some follow-up. All 17 folks that we've housed continue to remain housed. Now it's a short time period. We've only been operating since early February, but early indications are some good early stabilization within those, resources that already exist.
I had a similar question, if you don't mind, Mr. Ginsburg. Yeah, my background's as a social worker, and I used to work in a housing authority with people that included people that were homeless that transitioned in. And so many struggled to be in such a structured environment that it didn't last. But it sounds like you're connecting them to help them get on benefits, maybe find jobs. Is that part of what the case management includes, just to kind of help boost their success?
Absolutely. That's the whole point. It's sort of having run housing first projects for many years myself. There's some dirty secrets around taking people right from the street and putting them into permanent housing, and sort of the challenges around that. There's a time and place for that, but for the folks that we're working with, it really is all about that so-called housing ready, although that's sometimes a dirty word. But we do want to prepare them. A lot of folks end up finding jobs. We focus a lot on that. We have a nice 15-to-1 case manager to guest ratio. And so there's very intensive services. And absolutely, they get all of their vital documents together, birth certificate, IDs, so that they're, of course, housing ready, but also employment ready. They're connected with employment services through Jefferson County Workforce Center. And they stay as long as there's no arbitrary time limit. So we're really focused on their housing choice. So we're making sure they're moving into a housing situation where they don't feel vulnerable, where a lot of other people aren't using. And so people can stay, even though our average length of stay is 2 to 3 months, because our services are so intensive, they can stay as long as they want. And we really want to make sure they feel they're very well connected. We feel they're connected. They're in a neighborhood that they want to be in. We sort of vet where they're going so they feel safe. Some folks have moved into shared living and, as was mentioned, into some recovery housing if they feel more safe in that kind of more structured environment. Most of our folks have moved into independent living throughout the community, again, in neighborhoods where they feel most comfortable and most connected. And some folks have reunited with family that's supportive as well.
Thank you. Chelsea, I wonder if other people have questions, but I'll just ask one more. So if I'm calculating this right, you said this is for the next 15 months? So
yes, I did drop their award information in the chat. So their award started on 12/1/25. And so their award ends 11/30/2027.
All right, so this increase, the 401,000 option 3, works out to be 26,733 a month. Is that just for the next 15 months for the additional staffing?
So that would be the 401. So you divided that by the 15 months.
By 15, yeah.
Yeah. That
Okay.
sounds right.
Okay. Thank you.
Seem curious. Have you heard?
If there's no more questions, I'd be happy to make a motion to approve option number 3.
That was Janine
Sandy?
making the motion.
I'll
Sorry.
second that. That was Janine?
Yeah, Janine made the motion and then Sandy second. We will vote by opposition in the chat. I'm not seeing anything, so congratulations, James and Rebecca. I will get working on your contract amendment. So this will start the invoice, your September invoice that's due in October is when this would be able to start.
Thanks, Dr. Chelsea. Thanks, everyone, for your support.
Thank you so much.
Next agenda item is confirming our summit planning. Remember that this is going to be Thursday, October 29th. So our October full council meeting has been canceled because we will have this event all day on Thursday. The invite list, catering, and agenda was emailed out in a separate Excel document to folks. The executive committee approved up to $5,000. I do anticipate $4,700 for roughly 125 individuals. So our room rental with Red Rocks Community College is free. That charge is being waived. They are estimating $480 in AV or technology support. We're doing $500 in coffee from Wagon Coffee Roasters, a woman-owned folks in recovery organization. They are based in Denver. We will do breakfast burritos from Santiago's and Golden. The price quote for that was $325. We're going to do Jason's Deli sandwiches. So that includes sandwiches, chips, pickle, and then condiment packages. That is estimated at $1,798. I did use our tax waiver on that. I eyeballed this at Costco, was drinks and ice. That's about $110, and I estimated 244 sodas, bottles of water, juice. Badges and lanyards from Amazon, 2 packs of 100 for 200 total would be $42. That is actually cheaper than me getting $50 packs, so I will stick with that. I'm meeting with Judy from Jeffco next week to talk about printing needs, where we would get a charge there. And then we did tote bags from Elevated Impressions. That was $975. So I'm at $4,230. Count by service area, I gave you some pie charts. We're at 108 for sure. I'm still waiting on a couple of bigger organizations. That's why I estimated 125, as well as some community members. As a reminder, this is a public open meeting, so the community can attend. They just cannot participate in the working groups, the breakout groups, without the invite. And then I can't guarantee food for them, but I should have enough if our community members decide to come. Please remember to complete the Omni community survey that is program oriented, as well as the request for information that is funding oriented. These results will help inform the breakout work group. Here's our agenda with our rooms. We will have breakfast and networking from 8 to 8:45. We will have a welcome from our current GROC chair, Commissioner Marlin. We will have a recovery story from Austin at Recovery Works, which is a Region 10 resident and a recipient of GROC funding. We will have our keynote by Jamie Feld from the Colorado Opioid Abatement Council, or the COAC. Still leaning on Commissioner Dahlkemper to use her connections to get the AG there. We'll do a GROC in review. So from 2024 to present, all that we have accomplished. And then Omni will do a GROC looking ahead, talking about our evaluation framework. They will publicly launch our data dashboard and lay the foundation for what to accomplish in the breakout groups. We will do lunch and networking. We'll start with a funding area breakout group. So folks, when they registered, were able to pick prevention, treatment, recovery, harm reduction, or planning and coordination. And then we will go into a service area breakout group. And then we will end the day bringing us back into community with a grantee panel facilitated by Omni and some closing remarks by our current GROC Vice Chair, Commissioner Hollingsworth. I did include some worksheets to do in the breakout sessions for folks to review. I'm very open to feedback here on what these look like, but we will review the current GROC strategic plan and all of the line items in Exhibit E to talk about what is having the greatest impact in our current investments. Where should we sustain or expand? Are there geographic areas that have limited access to services? What approved uses are not currently represented in the strategic plan, and why would that be important? What approved uses are underfunded or insufficiently available? And which approved uses are especially important for rural, mountain, or underserved communities? Talking about identifying gaps in populations, community regions, rank them high, medium, or low. Where should we direct funding? What services are communities requesting but unable to access? What organizations or partners are missing from current funding opportunities? And then making some top recommendations. A slightly different worksheet for the service area or county organization level breakout group. Existing community services, what's working well, what's a challenge for that? What is your county doing well? What has been most successful? Which priorities are well represented within your community in each of the funding priorities? What are missing or insufficient? Why would that be important? What priorities look different in your county than elsewhere in the region? Again, reviewing Exhibit E, what would you like to see funded? Talking about gaps in populations or barriers, thinking about regional systems, what services are already being shared, what could be shared, where are better referral pathways or warm handoffs needed? Are there organizations outside your county that could strengthen services for your residents? And then finalizing your priorities. So then these worksheets will be available in paper and in a digital format, and then they will be analyzed after the summit to redraft the 2027-2028 strategic plan. And then that will also inform what our funding call looks like in January. So remember that the RFA opens in January, but 2027, but the award date is 1 year later. Floor is open. If there's any questions, comments, concerns.
So I'll open up the comments with a compliment. This looks very well planned and organized. I have no notes.
I'll say thank you to Chelsea, and I'm really appreciate you reaching out to these particular businesses.
Thank you. If there's nothing else on this agenda item, we will go ahead and move forward. Everyone also should have gotten a calendar invite to hold from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. for the summit. If you did not, please let me know. I will figure out what's going on with Teams to get that for you. And now we have our 2 renewal applications for group discussion. Advocates for Recovery and Denver Recovery Group. This is a slightly different format. Typically we did agree on the program manager would provide a brief introduction of the application covering the proposed project service budget key objectives in alignment with the funding area. And then the 3 individuals who scored the application would read their comments and concerns. And then we would have a general open discussion. But because everybody graded these applications, we are just going to go straight into discussion. So we have roughly 15 minutes for group discussion. You can vote to fund. That would be a final commitment to fund. You can vote not to advance. This would be a final denial of the application. Their award would end in Advocates for Recovery, this year. Would end in September. Denver Recovery Group would end in November of this year. We would not renew. You can request a revise and resubmit. This will send the application into executive committee meeting for 9/14 for a final determination. So I will go ahead and read my note. So this would be the second email that I sent with the meeting materials. You can also log into your UNA and you should be able to access. I think I have the permission set up correctly for you to access the materials. So before we begin discussing the renewal applications, I do want to provide some important context regarding the application materials, scoring, and our evaluation and monitoring processes moving forward. First, I want to sincerely apologize to the review committee for the technical issues with the UNA, particularly those affecting the project timeline and goals, activities, and outcomes section. During the application cycle, EUNA launched a significant system update to this feature that changed how these items were formatted and displayed for reviewers. Unfortunately, this created inconsistency in the materials available to the reviewers. Because of this issue, you will notice that the first page of the scorecard or overview in your meeting materials packet presents a reviewer average and scores without the project timeline scoring criteria, while the subsequent pages display the complete scorecard, including that criterion. I recognize that this created unnecessary confusion during the review process, and I appreciate everyone's patience as we work through the implementation of the new platform. I am currently working with EUNA on a revised project deliverables, measures, and activities tracking feature. The new approach will be presented to grantees at their November Learning Forum. If adopted, it should significantly simplify how grantees report progress against their contractual commitments, and equally important, make it easier for the council to monitor performance over the life cycle of the award. I also encourage the review committee to consider these applications alongside the work now underway with our external program evaluation partner, Omni Institute. Omni's evaluation infrastructure is moving into full implementation. The data dashboard will have a soft launch for council members next month, followed by a public launch in October at the Strategic Planning Summit. Omni has also begun delivering the first 3 quarterly evaluation reports to grantees through their UNA portals. One distinction is particularly important as we review these applications. Contract performance monitoring and program evaluation serve different but complementary purposes. Milestones, deliverables, measures, and activities tell us whether a grantee is doing what it contracted with GROC to do. Omni's evaluation metrics are intended to help us understand program impact across multiple levels, including the individual grantee, service area, funding area, and Region 10 overall. Omni collects and analyzes those evaluation metrics. It does not determine whether a grantee has satisfied its contractual performance commitments. Going forward, coupling these 2 approaches will give GROC a much more robust system of accountability and evaluation. EUNA will support ongoing monitoring of contractual deliverables and performance, while Omni will help us understand outcomes and impact across our broader portfolio. As you discuss the applications today, I encourage you to keep that distinction in mind, particularly when considering concerns about evaluation plans, measures, or the limitations of the information presented through EUNA during the implementation of the new platform. We will go into our first application, Advocates for Recovery. They are requesting a 2-year budget of $854,374.07 for a term period of September 13th, 2026 to December 31st, 2028. AFRC proposes to continue and expand peer recovery support across Jefferson, Gilbert, and Clear Creek County. Services include individual and family peer recovery coaching, recovery social events, community education outreach, transportation, and peer recovery coach training. Services are offered at no cost. Summary of objectives includes increasing participation in AFRC activities by 30% through outreach, engagement, and transportation, increase family support participation, establish peer recovery in reach referral pathways with at least 1 jail and 1 problem-solving court to serve 30 justice-involved individuals, conduct overdose awareness, recovery ambassador, and outreach activities reaching 150 people, continue recovery social events, and expand regional participation. Their target population are adults 18 and over and families seeking or living in recovery throughout the 3-county region. Summaries and strengths of the proposal. It has a strong regional relevance. Reviewers consistently recognize the need for peer recovery services and AFRC's understanding of Region 10, particularly rural access and recovery support gaps. There's a strong equity target population focus. This was one of the application's most consistently high scoring areas. They have a demonstrated outreach capacity. AFRC held 26 recovery social events with 70 attendees in Q4 and increased social media impressions by 371%. The Butler evaluation was generally viewed positively for documenting implementation challenges, progress, and next steps. One reviewer described it as clear and accessible and noted significant progress despite some unmet goals. Weaknesses include that the service volume relative to investment in staffing. The Butler evaluation reported only 21 newly enrolled participants receiving 90 coaching sessions, or 28% of the annual enrollment goal. Multiple reviewers questioned whether staffing levels and the requested budget are proportionate to the individuals served. Transportation significantly underperformed. The original objective was transportation for at least 50 people, but only 2 participants were transported during the evaluation period. The evaluation attributes this partially to delays purchasing the vehicle, staffing, training, and outreach. I was informed that this information is outdated, and I did not receive updated information from Advocates for Recovery. Evaluation performance measures need refinement. Reviewers identified duplicate measures, 0% target values, and unclear baselines and measurement methods. I strongly believe that this was due to the EUNA update that changed how this was formatted. I can report back on the revised evaluation metrics framework. Again, I strongly encourage the council to lean into Omni and their expertise in developing this for all of our grantees. The project timeline is a notable weakness. Again, I think this is due to the AUNA update. I can report back, if renewed, what the milestone dates would be. Sustainability lacks specificity. AFRC identifies numerous potential revenue sources, but does not quantify secured pending funding or demonstrate a clear path toward reduced reliance on GROC. Reviewers also questioned AFRC's decision not to pursue Medicaid reimbursement for potentially eligible services. I can comment on this. They do not offer any Medicaid eligible services. That is part of their true peer recovery model. They don't have clinicians on staff. So that's why they are not able to pursue Medicaid. If they wanted to pursue Medicaid, they would have to change their whole framework for delivering peer recovery services. Prior evaluation results are not clearly translated into the renewal. Reviewers generally like the Butler report, but question how findings and lessons learned materially changed the proposed renewal scope, targets, or resource allocation. The evaluation plan proposed 30 justice-involved individuals, 150 people reached through overdose awareness and outreach activities, increased family support participation, and a 30% increase in overall participation. Butler's prior evaluation established the BARC 10 brief assessment of recovery capital, the 10-item version, community outreach surveys, participant feedback, and qualitative interviews as evaluation mechanisms. These would remain. This is built into their Omni evaluation. The current renewal evaluation plan needs cleaner baselines. Yes, again, I think this was the update. I'm happy to report back before a contract is executed what this would look like to the council. AFRC requested $854,374.07 for the approximately 27.5-month award period. Reviewers generally found the budget plausible, but raised recurring concerns about staffing costs relative to service volume and demonstrated utilization. After reviewing the scorecards and evaluation materials, taking into consideration the lower participation rates in the mountain counties, the program manager consulted with the applicant regarding a reduced budget. Notably, this includes reducing the 1 FTE peer recovery coach in Clear Creek and the 1 FTE peer recovery coach in Gilpin to a combined 1 FTE coach, or roughly 0.5 FTE per county. This reduction in staff further lowered the fringe benefits line item. Closer review of the office lease assistance line item further reduced the overall budget. Together, these reduced the 10% indirect overhead, bringing the new total to $652,618.91 over its 27 months, 2 years. These changes are reflected in the budget template on tab 2. The conclusion is that I am recommending a renewal with conditions and or staged funding. So that would be the budget in the second tab, PM recommended. This would be the version that I recommend for funding renewal. And I will go ahead and open the floor for discussion and put 15 minutes on the clock.
Hi, Chelsea, it's Sandy. Everyone's so quiet. Was someone else going to jump in? So I must say, as one of the mountain communities, I do have a concern about going to a shared 1 FTE. I know the person in Gilpin has been trying really hard, and it's just really slow going, which we discussed in the beginning would be the case. And I don't know if the person currently would want to work both counties. So if they don't and they were to leave, to be starting all over, because I believe that Clear Creek is vacant at this time. But I have reservations about cutting it back that much. Is there the ability to cut back in Jefferson County instead? Because that seems like it's more solid as far as participation in programs. So it's which way you want to go about it, right? Keep at it or compromise the success later.
I don't think there's any opportunity to cut in Jefferson County because that is a bigger county. They have more need. That coach is working full time. The coach in Clear Creek, that position is vacant, and so they would leave the half FTE in Gilpin. They would leave her at the half. She's only working half FTE right now, and then they're filling in with a different coach to make it the 1 FTE. So that coach would stay at their half FTE time, and then Advocates for Recovery would post the Clear Creek position as a half FTE position, not a 1 FTE position.
Okay, that's different than how I was hearing it. I don't know if George, since he's a Clear Creek person, has any comments or think that could work for Clear Creek.
Just be correct to recruit and retain FTE.
Oh, you're breaking up.
Is that me that's breaking up?
Yes, your audio is breaking up.
Sorry, maybe it's a little more clear now.
Yes.
Thank you. My biggest flag would be concern for the ability to recruit and retain the right talent for a part-time position. I think my bias coming into this was to fund both of these positions fully, give them more time to try to develop a program that meets need. I think the need is out there. I think it takes time in rural communities to build programming, not just rural communities, actually. So that's kind of where I was at as I reviewed the application. Curious to hear from others. Very curious to hear from Jeffco folks and Clear Creek folks about. And I think my preference would be to make sure that we have a full FTE, and I'd rather them try to split workload across 2 counties than try to split 2 half positions across 2 counties.
So by not changing the staffing, only fixing the rental line item, that drops it to $831,000. But if they keep 1 FTE in Clear Creek and 1 FTE in Gilpin, I think they would want to keep 2 offices in Clear Creek. So that would not change the rental line item. That would keep it at the $854,000.
Chelsea, maybe I misunderstood. Did you say that currently the Gilpin is working half-time and not full-time?
They have 2 folks in Gilpin. One is working 0.6 and one is working 0.4. That creates a 1 FTE.
Okay, that answers that.
And then this 0.4 person is also a licensed driver for transportation. So they're kind of serving as a floater.
By license, do you mean a CDL? Because they didn't purchase a van.
I think they have their drivers just go through like an additional training for having people. So they only have certain people who they let drive other people.
I get, yes.
Decision.
Sorry, George, I might have cut you off.
No, that's okay.
I was just going to say, I agree with you that I think these things take time. So, like, we're still maybe just like watching this play out. I don't know necessarily, though, that like reducing it to halftime or whatever like reduces talent, because it's just, I mean, it's just going to be so person specific, and people are looking for different things in their lives at different points. And I don't know, like, I don't see that necessarily as a concern, but I also acknowledge that, yeah, this is a slow process. So I don't
know. They have been on the ground for 2 years at this point. We are about halfway through our discussion time.
Who's expressed an opinion and would love to hear from other members of the GROC?
This is Barb. I think just based on that last comment, the thing that does strike me, and with the clarification, it's been 2 years. So I don't know, from my experience, 2 years seems like a long time to be ramping up. So I don't know what we as a group would expect to be fully ramped up after 2 years. So moving forward, how much more time, will it take for them to be fully operational with the numbers that they are addressing in their proposal? So that's more of a question than a comment, but I do have worries that it's been 2 years.
Yeah, Barb, I have to piggyback off that a little bit. I go back and forth because I think it would be amazing to have a full-time person for Gilpin specifically. But then when I do talk to advocates, they haven't had anyone at their peer groups yet. So I don't really know where to find the balance with that. I think they're awesome, but their reach has been small for Gilpin.
I know our alternate has been going to some of their social events, and it ends up being the coordinator and that one person, but in both counties, in Clear Creek and Gilpin. So even though they say they have held so many events, it doesn't mean people are coming. So I do have a concern about that.
I know our department, Gilpin Public Health, has been communicating with some of their staff to try to organize more community Narcan training events and Narcan trainings within the casinos specifically. So that's something that will hopefully be growing. So yeah, I mean, there's potential there for sure.
I think what we just saw with Recovery Works is that we are not limiting ourselves to a definition of what a budget amendment is. And so if the council were to approve my recommended amount of the 652,000, which would remove one full FTE, have the mountain counties split that however they want. They could do 2 half FTEs, or they could do 1 FTE that splits time between the 2 counties. And then let's say this time next year, they're like, hey, we are picking up, we do need that extra staff member. They can bring that budget amendment back to the council.
And Chelsea, that would include reducing office expenses, correct?
Yes, they currently have 3 total offices. They have 1 in Jeffco, and then they have 2 office spaces in Clear Creek, and the Clear Creek building offices are $1,000 each. So if we remove a 1 FTE staff, their current lease is up in March. They would only renew at 1 office. And so that would drop the lease space. And again, if they decide they need that extra space, they can always come back to the council.
See, how did the conversation go about asking them if they really needed 2 FTEs in the mountain area? I would ask them this question if they were here. Did they agree with you? Are they simply complying?
No, they sounded to be in agreement that they could reduce their staff, especially because they have a current opening. So it's not like anyone would be losing their job. They sounded very willing, and they thought that it was reasonable because they did just have lower numbers and lower interest in the mountain counties.
Chelsea, sorry, I keep jumping in. So you said currently there's a 0.4 and a 0.6 working now, adding up to 1 FTE. Do you anticipate that? Did you talk about that? Will these 2 people now cover the 2 counties since they're already established?
Advocates for Recovery did not say this. The 0.4 FTE is kind of like a floater within advocates. And so they work in several different areas across several different funding mechanisms. They did not say if they would just move this person full-time into one of the mountain counties. I'm going to say Clear Creek because that's the position that's currently vacant. Or if they would move forward with their posting for the Clear Creek position and just change it to a half FTE instead of a 1 FTE. They did not clarify in that conversation.
I'm curious, are there any metrics for how much the transportation services have been used in the mountain communities?
I do not have that off the top of my head. I know it's more than 2.
Can folks hear me okay? My Wi-Fi is rough right now. We can. Okay, I think I can grab some numbers for us from our Omni data set. So let me do a little bit of file digging and see if I can give you some transportation numbers for the mountain counties. Hold few minutes. I know we don't have much time, so working quickly.
Remind me, while we're waiting for that data, this proposal continues the transportation component of that program, correct?
Yes, they have a 5-year term use agreement on the vehicle. This would carry them through 4 years of that term use agreement.
Chelsea, the transportation wasn't already funded or only through this year?
It was already funded. The vehicle was purchased in early 2025. So that was in the first year of their contract. The vehicle was purchased. So that's done.
Do you mind scrolling up on the budget chart? Like, what are they asking for? Mileage only?
And so mileage is for when staff need to drive outside of their commute from their home to the office. It does not cover any mileage for the transportation services. This is mileage for staff. So if the Gilpin coach needed to drive to the main office in Westminster for something, this mileage would cover that. If they needed to go to a grocery store to pick up supplies, this mileage would cover that. If they went to a training somewhere, this mileage would cover that. So the mileage is for staff. It is not for transportation services.
Okay, quick update from me here. Our like main figures that are the easiest for me to access without logging into our Qualtrics data system has total rides provided. I just asked Sean, our data guru, to try to give me numbers by county. I don't know if I will have them by the end of this conversation. But I will say that in terms of rides provided, generally speaking, there was a massive jump from Q2 to Q3. We went from 23 rides to 113 rides. So transportation does continue to trend upwards, and like pretty significantly so. And I'm doing my best to try to get you some county specific data ASAP.
Thank you.
Janine, go ahead.
It's getting loud in here, so apologies. But do they? Is there any thought to like what the barriers are and any plans to like try? Like I don't know. Is there any specific plan to be like, yeah, we think this is the barrier and this is what we're gonna do to get more people, or is it just kind of like still just putting it out there and trying to see what works and who comes? I don't know if they've spoken to that at all.
Are you referring to barriers specific to transportation or just
Oh no, just in general, just to like showing up to like the various events or just accessing services generally.
They have not spoken with me about that. Part of, I think, hiring an additional staff member would help in that capacity building to review where grantees are not meeting contract deliverables and problem solving with them. I just simply do not have the capacity to work at that granular level with grantees at this time. They have not said anything to me that at this point it might fall within the Omni evaluation framework. I think barrier problem solving is outside of Omni's initial scope though.
I think it's reasonable though, moving forward, if there are particular challenges that are coming up with funded partners, for Omni to even facilitate conversation back and forth, like, hey, council is interested in this. Can we talk about it the next time we're checking in and collecting data? So a bit of a slippery slope there, but I definitely think that there's a strong reason for the evaluators to be having that conversation. I don't think we could step into problem solving. I think I really like Chelsea's idea of using the additional admin person there, but happy to collaborate in that way to make sure that the evaluation team is giving you the information you need as you need it.
Okay, friends, I know we're getting close to the end of our time to discuss. I'll share, I think I see two options. One is to accept this reduced contract as is. I do think it's important for us to respond to data. As much as I would like this position to have forever to try to hang out and really build a robust program, I could see the second option being funding the original request, but for a shorter time period, like a year, so that we do a review in a year and consider whether to reduce then. Does anybody have any reaction to that? I think it's time for people to start throwing out firm opinions, and then we can get a motion on the floor.
Great idea, Commissioner Marlin.
I would caution against this because then you're going to be funding a 1 FTE and in a year potentially say we have to cut your job versus funding the half FTE now and evaluating in a year and then say, hey, we can increase this position.
As much as I like George's thought, I want to be optimistic that things are going to grow in time, but I have been listening, and it has been 2 years. And I know other groups that meet in Gilpin that are larger, more robust. So it's just hard to tell whether it's timing or personality or location or, what it is that's keeping this from really growing more. So I kind of lean toward going with the first proposal and doing a shared, but I'll just throw that out there. I'm not making a motion.
I am going to request a motion in the next probably 60 seconds because we do have one more application to discuss.
Dr. Shore, this is Sarah. Maybe it's not fair to ask this, but can we ask them to go back and work on it a little bit and provide us with some information on how they plan to work on engagement?
Yes.
I feel like when Janine asked her question, and maybe I'm off, that she wasn't asking for you to do that work, but shouldn't we be asking Advocates for Recovery to do that work?
Yes.
Around what the barriers are.
Yes, you can request to revise and resubmit, identifying that specific question of what are your barriers to growth? How do you plan to overcome them in the renewal period? You can ask for different versions of the budget, and then that would send the response into the executive committee on September 14th for a final determination of their award. I guess you could also do like a conditional fund today, depending on their answers and the revise and resubmit.
I'm going to move that we request to revise and resubmit. It seems like we have so many questions today, not just, it was like numbers, and if they had more thoughts on reducing, just seemed like we had a lot of questions in reviewing their application. So I'll just move that we do that, and we can list out what we're asking.
So the first question I have is to identify barriers to growth in the mountain counties and how they plan to overcome them in the renewal period. Are there any additional questions folks want answered in the revise and resubmit?
Yeah, I would ask them what risks and benefits they see in extend this option of extending the program as is for 1 year. I think that dovetails nicely with a conversation about what they think they can do to grow program participation.
I had a question when I was reviewing. They mentioned as a goal reaching out to at least one jail. Why not reach out to all three?
I got that.
Okay, I will second that motion.
And we will vote by opposition in the chat. Okay, this will go to the executive committee on September 14th for a final determination of funding. I will send those meeting materials out to everyone on the council so that anyone can attend that meeting and weigh in. We are moving on to Denver Recovery Group. Denver Recovery Group initially requested $356,939.20 for a 2-year budget. They did submit an incorrect budget with their application materials and petitioned the executive committee to include the revised updated budget of $511,691.20. The executive committee did vote to consider that budget. Denver Recovery Group is requesting renewal funding to continue the expansion of its Lakewood opioid treatment program under GROC's treatment priority. The project supports expanded access to medication-assisted treatment, or MAT, M-A-T, and related services for individuals with opioid use disorder and co-occurring conditions in Jefferson County. Services include medication dosing, counseling, case management, primary care, care coordination, referrals, and telehealth remote dosing services. This is a continuation of GROC's prior investment in expanded operating hours at their Lakewood location. During the current award, Denver Recovery Group exceeded its original operating hours goal by expanding clinical and medical services from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, rather than the originally planned 6 p.m. closing time. Since implementation, Denver Recovery Group reports that clinic census increased from 157 to 188 patients, or approximately 19.75%, and average dosing wait times decreased from approximately 9 minutes to 7 minutes. Summary of objectives: continue expanded Lakewood operating hours and increase access to treatment for individuals whose employment, family, transportation, or other obligations may create barriers to traditional operating hours. Continue growing the Lakewood patient census with proposed targets of 200 patients by Q4 in 2027 and approximately 225 to 230 patients by Q4 of 2028. The application contains an inconsistency between the entered year 2 target of 225 and the narrative target of 230. Continue reducing medication dosing wait times, including a proposed year 1 target of approximately 6 minutes and a year 2 target of approximately 5 minutes. Increase utilization of the Sonora remote dosing platform to improve treatment accessibility and flexibility for eligible patients. Maintain a treatment retention rate of at least 60% at 30, 60, and 90 days. Continue quarterly patient satisfaction surveys and use results to evaluate access, quality of care, cultural responsiveness, and continuous quality improvement. Target population is that they serve individuals with opioid use disorder and co-occurring substance use and mental health conditions. As an essential provider, they report serving individuals regardless of financial circumstances and providing sliding scale and grant-supported treatment options, as well as connections to services outside of their location. The application identifies priority populations, including low-income individuals and families, racial ethnic minority communities, justice-involved individuals, those experiencing homelessness, veterans, young adults, pregnant parenting women, and individuals with co-occurring mental health disorders. Strengths: they have a demonstrated programmatic result from the initial investment. They report approximately almost 20% census growth from 157 to 188 patients, following expansion of clinic hours, while average dosing wait times decreased from 9 to 7 minutes. They exceeded their original service access commitment by extending weekday services to 6 p.m., but they did expand services through 8 p.m. in response to community need. They have a successful implementation of core awarded activities, strong alignment with GROC's treatment priority, and one reviewers generally reviewed the underlying treatment services positively. One reviewer characterized the application as a strong and straightforward renewal application. Weaknesses include previous evaluation reporting lacks sufficient supporting data and analysis. This was one of the clearest themes across reviewer comments. Although they identified goals as met or in progress, reviewers noted that the previous evaluation report frequently functions as a status checklist rather than providing the underlying data, analysis challenges, or lessons learned. They report progress toward its 60% retention goal and positive patient satisfaction feedback without providing detailed results. Some proposed performance measures require clarification. Public health outcomes need stronger attribution and measurement methodology. Sustainability requires additional development. They identify Medicaid, commercial insurance, and FOSO contracts as mechanisms for sustaining operations as census grows. Multiple reviewers requested greater specificity regarding how and when those revenue sources will replace GROC funding. The target population information could be more data-driven. The renewal process and budget raise administrative capacity consideration. Denver Recovery Group initially submitted an award request of $356,000 and subsequently requested consideration of a corrected budget totaling $511,000. The executive committee approved consideration of the revised budget. This should be considered in the broader context of their administrative capacity rather than an indication of the quality of its direct treatment services. In terms of their evaluation plan, they do propose measurable indicators focused primarily on patient census growth, medication dosing wait times, Sonora utilization, treatment retention, patient experience, and public health outcomes. Year one proposes growing census to 200 patients, reducing the wait time by 14%, and increasing their Sonora, which is their remote dosing utilization. Year two proposes continued census growth and further reduction in average dosing wait times. They propose maintaining 60% treatment at 30, 60, 90 days and administering quarterly patient satisfaction surveys. The evaluation framework contains useful measures, but several require clearer baselines, definitions, methodologies, and alignment between narrative descriptions and numeric targets. Reviewers also consistently requested stronger supporting data and analysis and future evaluation reporting. This is being worked on with the Omni Institute. Renewal applications were encouraged to reach out to Omni to get their quarterly evaluation data while Omni was working on the implementation of their evaluation framework, their evaluation reports, and our data dashboard, but that did not happen by this group. They originally submitted a renewal request for $356,000, but then they resubmitted a budget for $511,000. They report receiving $178,000 in prior GROC funding for this project. Its sustainability strategy relies primarily on increased patient census and established reimbursement mechanisms. Reviewers generally considered these revenue sources credible, but requested a more developed plan demonstrating how GROC funding will ultimately be replaced and how the group will mitigate sustainability risk. In conclusion, this group demonstrates strong programmatic value and regional relevance. The initial GROC investment has resulted in expanded treatment hours, increased patient census, reduced dosing wait times, additional staffing, and implementation of remote dosing technology, Sonora. They report expanding service beyond its original commitment, increasing census, and reducing wait times. The principal concerns identified through the application and scorecard review relate less to the underlying treatment model and more to evaluation rigor, sustainability planning, consistency of application materials, and administrative grants management capacity. Reviewers repeatedly identified a need for stronger supporting data, clearer evaluation measures, and a more developed long-term sustainability strategy. In addition to the issues identified by reviewers, grant administration has been an ongoing area of concern during the current award period. GROC has provided this group with additional technical assistance related to timely invoicing, use of the Unigrants management portal, and compliance with grant administration requirements. A corrective action plan was previously implemented related to late invoicing and Uniportal compliance. During the renewal process, the group required additional individualized technical assistance related to the application and e-UNA submission process. The group also initially submitted an incorrect budget with its renewal application and subsequently requested that a corrected budget be considered with a similar error occurred during their initial application in 2025. These administrative concerns should be considered separately from the group's programmatic service delivery. The available information indicates that Denver Recovery Group is providing an important treatment service and achieving meaningful implementation outcomes. However, the pattern of administrative issues demonstrates a continued need to strengthen the organization's internal grant management and business processes. The level and type of organizational support needed also extends beyond the routine technical assistance that can be reasonably provided through GROC grant management. Accordingly, the program manager recommends conditional approval of the renewal period, with the final award based upon a requirement that Denver Recovery Group participate in an approved business development, business incubator, or comparable organizational capacity building program during the first 2 quarters or 6 months of the renewal period. The purpose of this condition is to strengthen their internal administrative, financial, and grant management capacity and support successful stewardship of GROC funds while allowing the organization to continue delivering treatment services that have demonstrated value to the region. This recommendation is also consistent with GROC's broader consideration of incorporating organizational capacity building into grantee onboarding and support. In Denver Recovery Group's case, structured capacity building would provide a proportionate response to the administrative concerns identified while supporting continued delivery of effective treatment services. And with that, I will go ahead and open the floor.
I have 2 quick questions, Dr. Schormiller. The first one is just clarifying the nature of they had an opportunity. Am I interpreting correctly that they had the opportunity to work with Omni and dial in their evaluation data in order to better respond to some of the concerns or questions that folks had about the data and baselines?
Yes, so we were initially trying to incorporate Omni's data evaluation metrics at the program level into the individual grantees e-UNA portal, but our initial approach was not feasible. And so grantees have not been delivered their quarterly evaluation reports at the quarter. Omni put together some different formats for how their quarterly evaluation data could be presented at the last grantee learning forum. And then they will start delivering those quarterly reports into the grantee portal so they are readily available for grantees every quarter. Because of that implementation process, the renewal applications had to initiate outreach to Omni to get that information in preparation of their renewal application. This group did not do that.
Yikes. Okay,
Just
thanks for the clarification.
quick weigh in, like all of that follows, but for further context for folks, every time a grantee submits data to Omni, they get an immediate email with a PDF that downloads all of the data that they just submitted. And then anytime when we're going through cleaning it, if there's an adjustment to make, they get communication and have all of that. So everybody has a like raw ongoing file of all of the data that they have submitted. We just didn't get that like special outreach to have conversation or, you know, further dig into spaces that might have been needed.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. That helps too. I still maintain a bit of a concern in that they had an opportunity to further clarify the data, some of which we have detailed questions about that they haven't been able to answer, unless I'm misunderstanding that. And then the second question was just broadly, is GROC more so funding like uninsured or folks with the inability to pay for treatment, or is it more so like admin capital?
It's just staffing
Okay. Okay.
so that they could recruit more patients and bill those additional mechanisms.
Got it. So they're getting to a space once they have capacity, if I'm understanding correctly, that those positions should be funded through reimbursement models with HICPUF and the BASOs and all that sort of stuff.
I would want to clarify their sustainability model with them. That is how I interpret their application materials. I think that goes into what I was describing is like there's two parts to this group. There's their service delivery treatment, which is great, and then there's their business model and grant administration capacity, which could use some additional support. And so that's where my recommendation comes in, to approve the budget conditionally on them attending some type of business incubator program. I do have a survey out to all of our grantees right now of if GROC were to fund this, what topics would they like to see covered? Would they like it to be as part of their onboarding requirements, kind of throughout the duration of the grant, as an optional service for them to attend, and exploring what that program could look like from us. There's also broader discussions across multiple ROACs to do an infrastructure award to offer a business incubator service that is being offered in the Southwest region with a lot of success, and just doubling it and opening it up to all the ROACs who have grantees to attend.
Chelsea, when would you know about that more combined approach? I really like this idea because I think it's just to benefit their time with GROC money, but it's for long-term sustainability, because I think that could be a real feather in the cap when they're doing other grant requests or funding requests, is to say that they strengthen that part of their business approach.
Yeah, so I requested grantees complete the survey by September 11th so that I would have some input for the executive committee on September 14th. The state infrastructure award opens in October. It closes in January. So we would have that time to meet with the other ROACs to discuss who would lead that infrastructure application, who would want to be a collaborator on it. But that was why my condition was that they attend it in the first 6 months of their renewal period. The renewal application would start December 1st of 2027. So that would essentially allow them until June of next year to enroll in this program. Depending on the state infrastructure share, they typically release funds in June for that. So that would be a later award. If we were to start this now, we could probably start this as soon as January, offering it ourselves. They could also find their own project that we would review and approve, to get that business administration and grant management capacity building.
So like this approach, I would want us to have that condition be flexible, given that just given everything up in the air, one of the ways that we could help it be flexible would be to authorize the executive committee to like increase the grant amount if we find that it's a paid program that we think is the best fit. Does anybody have, is there diversity of opinion, or are we ready to move forward?
I guess I would just say that I really like that idea of providing some extra funding for them if that's something that they would be interested in doing.
How I heard Commissioner Marlin say it was that we would delegate the executive committee to approve an award increase if their preferred business development program is paid. So we wouldn't have to increase this award at this time. We're just granting a future delegation to the executive committee to approve a business development program if we can't implement one in time.
Well, perfect, because I like that idea too.
So I'm trying to keep their program, like service delivery, separate from their administration capacity building.
In the GROC times, we often fantasized about these funds doing exactly this. So I'm going to go ahead and make the motion. Rhiannon, I appreciate your enthusiasm. I'm just going to make the motion that we conditionally approve this budget with the condition as described by Dr. Shore-Miller and authorization for the executive committee to increase the award to pay for some kind of coaching service if we find it necessary. Business development coaching service.
I'm looking for a second.
This is Laura. I'll second.
Thank you, Laura. We will vote by opposition in the chat. I'm not seeing anything, so this award has been conditionally approved. So just again, recapping the action steps is that Advocates for Recovery did go into a revise and resubmit. I have 3 questions. What are the barriers to growth in the mountain counties, and how do they plan to overcome them in the renewal period? What are both the risks and benefits in extending the program as is for 1 year, and then requesting a budget for that? And then mention as a goal, reaching out to at least 1 jail, but why not reach out to all 3 jails? Just further clarification around that goal. That will go into executive committee on September 14th for a final decision. I will email the R&R out to all of the voting members and alternates so that they can attend that meeting on September 14th to provide comment or consideration if necessary. And that concludes our meeting for today. Our advisory meeting on September 3rd is going to be rescheduled to September 10th. I will be out of office on September 3rd. Our executive committee meeting will meet on September 14th. That's a virtual meeting. And then we have our full council meeting on September 28th. Again, that will be virtual from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Thank you everyone for joining, and enjoy the next 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chelsea.